So Jeremy and I are batching it this weekend, and I just thought I'd ask you, Jeremy, what have you been doing with your time?
Let me tell you what I'm not doing with my time. I'm not putting the seat down this week. I'm all by myself. No reason to. I'm making one glass of water before I go to bed. That's it. Just one. Just for me. Nobody else is asking for anything.
That's great.
How about you? What are you up to?
I have made every meal to perfection because no one has been displeased with what I've made.
No one's complaining about the meal?
Not one person has complained about the food that I cooked this week. It's awesome.
Tell me about is everything clean around the house?
Oh yeah, and the other thing is that I don't have to reload the dishwasher because it was loaded wrong in the first place. It is that dishwasher. I turned it on this morning for the first time all week. It's been absolute. And when I come home, it's going to be an easy put away. It's going to be awesome.
You're not going to have to complain about doing it.
No.
Oh, that's good. We should talk about that.
Let's talk about this.
Hi, this is Jeremy. I'm here with Scott, and we're talking about the Enneagram this week. Scott, we have done 2 weeks of the study. The first week you set it up, and then the second week we interviewed an 8 on stage, which was fantastic. Help us with some of the ways people can get started in the series, either if they haven't read the book or if they've read the book. Let's talk about some opportunities for them to kind of jump in.
I think that's really good, and we want to make this accessible, right? I mean, what we're trying not to do is create an insider-outsider language, and
Right.
so really this is about spiritual formation and how we can get involved with the Spirit's work in us. And I think the more we know about our personality, I should say, the better off we're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the heart of this thing is not to type us in a way that typecasts us and that's who you are forever.
Right.
The beauty of the Enneagram is that knowing your personality actually sets you free to a path of change, of real transformation, not only in your own experience, but in your relationships with others. And so that's really what we're trying to get after.
Well, that's great. Let me ask you this. Some people are reading the book, and I've heard a lot of commentary that they're not sure where their number is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to get a gauge on it. Can you give me insight on what's the best way to kind of find out your own number?
Right. Well, I think reading the book is helpful because really finding your number or your understanding your personality is really all about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I can think I know what your personality is, and I can say, oh, you're a this, and I could be completely wrong because all of that is what is the motivation, the passion that is particular to you that you kind of go back to week in and week out. And that's where the gold is. And so when you read the descriptions and you begin to see what the passions are behind all of these, we're all going to kind of be awakened to the things we don't necessarily really like about our personality, because every one of the 9 personality types are driven by a 7 deadly sin plus 2 more, because we need to figure out 9, not just 7. And so that is where I think we start. And in conversations with friends is really helpful. Listening to the Typology podcast about the different personalities and how people who have been on this journey a lot longer. It's totally okay if it takes a year or more to really figure this out.
And would you recommend the test? Some people have taken the test and they can't really, they don't identify with it. Would you recommend the test?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good.
In a word, no.
No.
If I can be as clear as I can, stay away from the test, don't take the test. If you've taken the test, flush the results, right? It's not worth it. And the reason is because the test can't tell you what your motivation is.
Okay.
Only you, in the process of prayer, can begin to determine what your sin of choice is, your passion of choice.
Yes.
And for me, when I began to read about this and I saw the description of a 1 and I saw that anger was the sin of choice for a 1, I was like, that's me. I mean, it was clear as day.
Yeah.
Is that...
it's pretty impactful too, isn't it? I mean, because it's like, whoa,
yes.
Oh yeah, that's me. Someone wrote it down. That's not good.
Exactly. It's sort of like that classic line in the Avengers when they're all talking about the Hulk, and he goes, the secret of being the Hulk is that I'm always angry. And so then he turns and punches this big alien. But that's the idea, right? And when I kind of saw that, I was like, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it is an awakening. It
totally
really is a wonderful. That's a great series title for us. Now, as I look at the dream catcher, and I'm sure you're going to show it during the show, during this podcast, but as I look at that, it has all the different arrows and everything. Help us to understand how it's structured so that we understand, for first, the wings on both sides. What do they mean whenever you have a wing? If I have a number and two numbers are surrounding me, what do those numbers represent for me?
That's a great question. So, briefly, you're one personality, and you're influenced by the wing number, which is so I'm a 1, so I'm influenced either by 2 or by 9.
Okay,
because that's what 1 is next to on the Enneagram. I cannot be influenced by 6.
Okay,
in the same way. I might have some characteristics of the other numbers, but it's not the same thing.
Right.
And so for me, I'm a 1 with a 2 wing. And so I'm a perfectionist that leans toward helping others.
Okay.
And you don't take on the negative passion of a 2.
Right.
What you end up doing is you take the good stuff of a 2 and you add it into the corruption of your 1 or your number, And so you're just mixing it up, building this chili. And it sometimes is
personality
good.
chili.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
And so you can either lean to the right or left of your number, and that number will influence.
Okay.
And so that's how that works.
So tell us more about then I see the arrows.
Right.
And now I'm totally, now what am I doing with these arrows?
And now it's like chutes and ladders. What's going on? Who knows what's happening? But the easiest way to think about it is what happens to you when you're in stress or insecurity. And in stress, I move to a 4.
Okay.
And so a 1 in stress.
And you take the negative
I
characteristics.
take on the
4.
negative characteristics without any of the positive.
Okay.
So a 4 is someone who identifies as someone who's a romantic, who feels very deeply about life, but never feels included in what's going on. But there's a kind of a joy of being distinct that a 4 feels.
Yeah.
I just feel the pain of being left out.
Oh, okay.
So
in stress, that's where you go, to the negative side of the 4.
Right. So,
now, whenever you're in secure position, where do you go?
So in secure, I go to 7.
Okay.
So I become the enthusiast. I become the person that is very free. Let's light up the room. Let's have a good time. Let's encourage other people. Let's really take on that joy of life, right?
Oh, wow.
And so that's a 1 who's accepted the imperfections of their life and is able to move into life not bounded by the imperfections. And I think it's a beautiful picture of what grace does to people, right? And I think that's how it works for all the numbers. As you begin to see, what happens to you in stress. And this is the danger of telling people what they are, as well as taking a test. Because you can present one way. If you're unhealthy, and I would say 4 is me. I'm all about a 4. Well, it's not right, because once you read the motivation of a 4, that's not my motivation.
Right.
My motivation is perfection, to avoid blame, and to move into a world where people accept me because I'm right. I've got a life that is without chinks in the armor. And that's why when I mess up these videos and the audio, it really is upsetting. Like for right now, I just remembered I didn't turn my mic on. And so all of what we're doing right now is going to have really crappy audio.
And my favorite part is I get in here and this place is set up perfectly. I mean, it is lights, it is camera, it's beautiful. I'm certain that it's going to come off my mic and pretty well, right?
We're gonna just have to go for it, because we're not gonna repeat it. But now you hear me a lot clearer, don't you?
Yeah,
of course you do.
Of course you do. So those are great. The arrows, the wings, those are all fantastic things. I really enjoy the class because I believe that talking to these people, or talking to the people and having them share, is so life-giving to understand others and understand them well, and then also to understand ourselves. So what is your recommendation for being in the class and as we interact with people up on stage? Is there something we can do to really get the most out of this?
I think especially when we're not talking about your number, the number that's not you, is really embrace the person or the number, the personality that we are talking about. and to say, how would I be a good friend to that person? You know, how can I embrace that person for who they are and help them live in a healthy spot?
Wow.
You know,
That's powerful.
It is. I think it's hugely powerful. And when we know this about each other, we're not like everybody's personal prophet and go around telling them what they're doing wrong.
Right.
But we can begin to create security for that person in that relationship.
Especially if it's our spouse. I mean, big time. And then obviously for our friends and our community, those are also great vehicles. But man, how about life-giving whenever two become one and you are right there with your spouse, understanding their motivations and trying to help them alongside that. That's beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to the class this weekend. I appreciate you setting this up, and I hope everyone's able to join. Again, if anybody knows the number and wants to volunteer to go in front of the class,
absolutely,
we would love to have you.
Let us know.
Please. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the section there, or just reach out to us. Love to hear from you.
Absolutely, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week.
And this is the summer of Jeremy. Can you feel the air of no responsibility?
Hasn't that been nice?
Oh, man, we won't talk on camera. No, it has. It's been, so life-giving, because this morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, I want to go do sunrise rowing this morning, and I want to turn the music up loud before I leave the house, and I'm just going to leave it on. Just going to leave it on. I'm going to have trouble not trying to suppress my joy.
Wives don't watch that.
Yeah. Okay.